Hey guys, and welcome back to your one room schoolhouse. If you are new here, my name is Mary Barfield and I'm a homeschooling mama to a first grader and a third grader. And today's lesson is going to be all about McGuffey readers and how we do a language arts lesson with my first grader using the McGuffey Eclectic Primer alongside of my very own McGuffey Companion Notebook. This actually is a printable PDF. It is brand new, live in my Etsy shop right now. I'll link that down below for you guys if you want to go check that out along with the other things that I have in my shop. But this is specifically geared towards kindergartners through second grade because I have made it so that the pages inside have the guided dotted lines in the center when you're writing that help children who are learning still how to form their letters properly and are working on penmanship. I have another companion McGuffey guide or notebook, that is geared more towards third to fifth grade. That's also in my shop, and I'm actually doing a video on that. Not sure which one will be posted first, so go check my channel, and if it's not out right now, it will be right after this video. But if you're looking for one for a little bit of an older student to use with the higher level McGuffey readers, I have that available too. But so I'm gonna show you guys how I do a lesson. Like, what does that actually look like? I'm gonna flip the camera around and we're gonna get into this book and then this book as well. But before I do that really quickly, if you're not familiar with the McGuffey readers, I just wanted to give you a quick high level overview of what they are. So the McGuffey readers are a set of readers. There are 7 in total books. It starts with the primer, and then there's books 1, 2, 3, all the way to 6. Now, the levels do not correspond with grade. It corresponds more so with skill. You're not necessarily meant to go through one book per year. Now, in the beginning you might, but as the books get longer and higher up in level, book 6 is meant to be done in your 11th or 12th grade year. I mean, this program, if you use it as your full language arts, it can take you from kindergarten all the way till you graduate high school. It's pretty incredible. But there are actually 2 different versions of this. This is not the original. This is the revised edition. The original edition of the McGuffey readers, I think it's called the pictorial McGuffey readers. They were the original set that were created. They had a lot of religion intertwined with it. There's a lot much older English in it. From my understanding, people say that the stories are a little bit tougher. It ramps up a little bit much. So what they did in the late 1800s is they revised those and created the revised edition, which is more of a secular type of book. Now, just an FYI, there is God mentioned occasionally in here. So if that's something that is of note to you, I just want to make sure you know that. But there's still really good values and morals in here. The language is still older English, but it's not so old, if that makes sense. It's a little bit more modernized for the 1800s at least. And I do really enjoy the fact that there are still really great values being instilled through the stories in here. There's really great pictures included, especially in the younger years of these volumes. As you get into the older ones, there's not so much pictures, but they're just a great option. Secular or Christian, you have 2 different options. They're a wonderful option if you're trying to simplify and do more of a Charlotte Mason or natural learning style language arts. And that's what we do in our homeschool. So if you have any other questions about the McGuffey readers, leave them down in the comments. I'm happy to answer them for you, but that's kind of just a high level overview of what they are. So without further ado, let's flip this camera around. Let's get into both these guys and I'll show you what I do for a lesson with my first grader. All right, guys, so here is the McGuffey primer and here is the McGuffey companion notebook that I have. Again, this one is geared towards kindergarten through around second grade, probably maybe third. So before we get into how a lesson would look with my first grader, I want to show you what is in this actual printable file that I offer in my Etsy shop. This one specifically has 2 different cover options. I like the fact that it's digital because that means then you and your household can print off as many different covers as you want, as many different lesson pages as you need for as many different kiddos that are in your household, right? I just think it provides a lot more flexibility. I've always been a fan of PDF curriculums. If you've been following me on my channel for a while, you know that. So I'm so excited to be able to offer something like that to you guys. So here is the first cover. So it says McGuffey Companion Notebook. It's got this cute nature scene on the outside. And then it also has a back cover that matches. So I thought this was more cutesy, like maybe girly. And then honestly, that would be great for a boy too. And then on the inside, you have a matching kind of color motif on the inside this book belongs to. Then you can write that there for them. If you do have a boy, or like my youngest daughter, she loves camping, you have this option, which I thought was kind of a nice contrast to this one. Again, still nature focused, outdoorsy. And then on the inside, you have this book belongs to. And then on the back cover, you have this guy too. So it can create a nice little notebook for your student. So I'm just going to really quickly show you what are the notebooking pages that you would need for one lesson within the McGuffey reader, and then we'll actually run through what a lesson would look like. So there are 4 different pages that I've included for each lesson. I personally do these lessons over 2 days, but you could expand them over a whole week. You could do it in 1 day. It just depends on your kiddo, but I personally like to take 2 days per lesson. That seems to be a nice pace for us right now. So the first page has a written narration portion. As you can tell, I've included the dotted middle line to help with formation of letters, as oftentimes in the kindergarten through 2nd grade age level, you're still really working on your print or even your cursive penmanship. And so again, at this age too, a lot of times kids aren't doing their written narration, but some kids are. So I like to offer that here, or they might every once in a while want to do it, right? I personally, with my daughter, she is not doing written narration, so I will go ahead and write her narration down for her. However, what she does love to do is do a narrative drawing. So there's a little space here that she can draw a picture of what she just told me verbally for her narration. On the back, we have an area for your spelling words. So we have a column here for read, write, and test. Now, I'll show you in practice what that means in a second, but essentially there are words that are in each of the lessons, and it's like a spelling list at the beginning of the lesson. And what I'll do is, prior to the lesson, I will write the words down here that I want her to work on. I think I've created 10 or 11 slots here. I cannot remember. Maybe it's 12. Here, let's count it. 11 slots. So for 11 words. And the Sunday before school that week, I will go ahead and pre-prep these lesson pages, and I'll write down the words from the lesson that I want her to do. And then also I'll do that for her copy work. I'll select a passage, a sentence from the passage, and I'll write it down here for her to copy. So what she'll do is then read this, then she'll write them in her best handwriting, and then we'll cover this and I'll test her on those words. And then we have little slots down here for some vocabulary doodles. So any words that she didn't know the definition to, we'll go over the vocabulary for that and she'll write them here. We'll use some dictionary skills here and she'll draw what the definition is. I'll go over that more when I run through these pages as a lesson. Then the next day, so that's what I would do for the first day. The next day, then we come to these 2 notebooking pages. I will have her draw her copy work underneath of the copy work here. And then a lot of times she likes to draw a picture for it. So then I provided a space here for her to illustrate her copy work as well. And she loves doing that. And then what I'll do is, so dictation in this age group is generally pretty minimal or not at all. But what I will use this for, if the copy work I gave her is pretty simple, like Sam is a rat, I will dictate that to her and she can sound that out and she will write it down. But if it's really complicated, we won't do dictation that way. What I'll do is use this as another opportunity to go over some of the spelling words that maybe she didn't get right the first day. And then we'll use this page to do some exercises with that, which I will show you in a second now. So that's everything that's in the notebook. Now let's get into what an actual lesson looks like for us. Okay, so before we do the actual lesson, I just want to show you some tools that I like to have to make the lesson go a little smoother. Obviously, writing utensil for the kiddo, we need the McGuffey primer, or if you're doing the first or second notebook or book. We love this magnifying paperweight. It is so handy and the girls just think it's so fun. When I'm asking them to do their art narration, I'll show you how I use that, but that comes in handy a ton. Then I also really enjoy using these Land of Kakiak. I'll link her Etsy shop down below. These grammar phonics, comprehension check-in bookmarks. It's a whole language arts set of bookmarks. I printed all of them out, but I've only laminated these 4 because these are the only ones that are appropriate, I think, for right now my kiddos' level and skill. But as they go up in language arts, I'll be able to use more and more of the bookmarks that she has in that file. But definitely go check these out. These are really fun. And they're really just helpful when we're trying to go through things in here and make it more of a grammar lesson or such. So these come in handy, not necessary, but I like them a lot. And then also my pencil case, because it has all of my coloring pencils in here and pens and things like that. So we'll need those for our lesson. I'll show you why. Okay, I just did some movie magic. Since the last time I filmed the last clip, I actually did some prep for our lesson. So let's pretend I did this on Sunday and today is Monday, okay? So I would say, hey, let's sit down for your McGuffey lesson. And then I would have my daughter open up to her super fancy bookmark, which is a index card. And I would have her open up to the lesson we're on. So the other great thing about this is they use Roman numerals for their lessons. So that's been a really kind of neat thing to teach her, is Roman numerals, how to read them. So this would help her practice. I would say, hey, if she's having a hard time remembering, I would say, hey, remember X is a 10 and I's are 1. And she would be like, oh, lesson 11. So I would have her read the lesson. Then I would have her read the words that are in the lesson out loud to me. Any phonics that they're trying to go over here, like actually phonetics here, they're like F, X, or X and sh, and then some phrases that they have. And then I would have her read the passage, and that's it. That's all there is for, I think, this lesson. Yeah, it's only one. So I would have her read all that, and then I would have her put it down, and I would say, hey, give me your best oral narration. What was that story about? And if she's like, I'm having a hard time, and I would be like, okay, what was your favorite part? And then she'd be like, oh, they called there was a little fat hen, or blah, blah, blah. She would just say whatever she remembers, and then I would write that down. Oftentimes she does actually give me a good narration. We've been doing this a while now, and she's actually pretty good at it. So I'll write that down for her, and I'll have her watch me write it down the entire time so she can see how I'm forming the words and all that goodness. And then after that, I'll say, do you want to draw a picture for your narration? And 9 out of 10 times the answer is yes. So then she will take her time and draw the picture. And then we'll come over here to the spelling word list. Now, again, I've done this the night before. I will have her reread through the list again, and then I will have her, in her best handwriting, I would say, give me your best effort, write the words here in a row. And then I would say, do you feel comfortable with these words? Do you want to study them? Sometimes she's like, hey, give me a second. I want to just reread through them one more time. And then once she's done that, I will cover this with a sheet of paper. Actually, I take a photo of this list first on my phone, and then I'll have her cover it with a sheet of paper. And then I'll call it out like a standard test. I'll say nest, this, eggs, and then she'll finish that all up. And then once we've got to the last page, or excuse me, the last word, I will have her remove that sheet that's covering it up, and I'll say, check your work and let me know what you got right or wrong or what happened. And she loves checking her work. There is truly something about checking your own work that gives you some buy-in, and she kind of thinks it's fun. I give her a color pencil that she can check with. She thinks it's great. And assuming she gets them all right, great, we move on. If there's anything that she did get wrong, we will notate that for the next day. And then once we're done with that, the last thing we do for the lesson is I tell her, hey, can you read through this list? Are there any words that you don't know the definition to? And if she doesn't, I'm like, great, let's write those down. Let's say she said, well, she knows this. She knows all these words, but I'm just using this as an example. Let's say she didn't know, she didn't know what a hen was, right? So I will have her write it on this line here, and that was it. That's all she didn't know. And we'll get the dictionary out, and I'm still working with her on dictionary skills, so I'm helping a lot in looking up the word, but she's learning how it works alphabetically and things like that. And then we'll get to the word hen. If she can read the definition, I'll let her do it herself. I'll help if she needs it. And then I'll ask her, hey, what does it say? Is there an N, a V, adj next to it, ADG? What is it, a noun, verb, or adjective? She kind of has learned that loosely from me, what those are. And she'll say it has an N next to it, so it must be a noun. And so then I'll have her draw, based on what the definition is, what a hen is. Oh my gosh, this is terrible, y'all. I'm just trying to do this fast for the video. Oh, that's more of a rooster. I don't know, but you get the point. Here's a hen. And I let her do whatever she wants with the definition, with the drawing, right? I don't force her to make it as detailed as possible. I just let her do her thing. It's oftentimes something like this, and it's so cute. And then that's it. Now, if she knows all the words, I might ask her to pick out 1 or 2 or 3, depending on how spry she's feeling. I would ask her to pick out some words up here, write it next to her. I'll ask her, hey, is it a noun, a verb, an adjective? And then I'll have her write that down next to it. And then she'll just draw a picture for it. And she thinks that's super cute and fun. And that's it. That's the first part of the lesson. So we go on about our day, we take a sleep, and then we wake up the next morning. It's Tuesday. We are going to finish the second half of this lesson. So I'll have my daughter pull out her McGuffey primer. I'll ask her, hey, just a reminder, what lesson is it again? She'll do the Roman numeral. And then depending on if she had trouble with this passage or not, I will have her reread it. But if she like flew through it, I'm not even going to bother with that. But before I do any of that, I have her grab our handy dandy magnifying weight glass, and I have her study the picture. I have her use this to find any good details. I mean, this really does help you zone in on the details and such. And so I let her study it, and then I say, okay, tell me a narration for what's happening in this picture. And she'll tell me what's happening in the picture, and she'll do a picture narration. And then we'll put the notebook away, or excuse me, the book away. I'll put my little bookmark in here. And then I will tell her to flip open to her copywork page. And again, I've written this on Sunday before the school week has started. And then she will do her copywork underneath it. So I'll show you maybe an example of what her copywork might look like. And I'm being super hyperbolic here about how she writes. She actually is pretty good at writing, so. Okay, so she's completed her copy work. And so what I do is then I pull out my pencil case and I say, okay, girlfriend, pick out 2 different color pens. And let's say she picks out blue and green, okay? So I'll tell her green's gonna be what I circle all the good stuff you did. Blue's gonna be the stuff that maybe we need to work on and change a little bit. And so she'll say, okay, great, let's move on. And so I'll go through it, and I'm just gonna go through it from the start to finish. I'll say, hey, remind me, why is this capitalized? And she'll say, oh no, that's always what she does. She goes, oh no, it was supposed to be capitalized because it's the beginning of a sentence. I'm like, yes. So we always want to remember to capitalize it. And so then, and then I'll say, oop, our H went a little bit too high up. And if it's really something like this, I'll have her rewrite the word. If it's like, if the whole word is kind of a mess, I'll have her rewrite it underneath just to get, the feeling for it. And then I'll say, oh, we probably wanted to do a little bit of a bigger space, like here. This was a great space. The way you did this was perfect, so good. So we just want to do that over here to make sure that our words are identifiable as individual words and not looking at it as a whole word where it's this is this. And so she'll obviously laugh. I try to make it fun and lighthearted. I try not to make her feel bad if she gets something wrong because she's still learning, of course, here. And then I'll say, hey, like here, this was a great spacing, good job. Oh, but you know what? You floated these words a little bit. We want those to bump down here. And this one, I would probably have her rewrite underneath. That's why I give you more lines down here. I would have her rewrite fat underneath just to make sure we got that correct. And then I would say, oh my gosh, look at this whole word. Big star. You spelled it right. It's written correctly. And you even used the proper punctuation. And I would say, why do we put a period at the end? And she would say, at this point, what we've learned is every sentence needs to end with a punctuation mark, period, exclamation mark, point, question mark. And she would say that. And I would be like 100%. And then what I would do also is I would say, I would write next to this spelling. You get 100%. She loves seeing like the little 100% sign. She thinks it's hilarious. And then I'll say, do you want to put a sticker on it? You know, those kind of things. I do things to encourage positive reinforcement. Now, I might use this opportunity to pull out some of my bookmarks here. Specifically, I might say, well, here, let's do a grammar. I might say, hey, do you remember what an adjective is? And if she does, or if she doesn't, we'll talk about it. And then I'll say, do you see an adjective in the sentence? Can you circle it for me? And then she would, you know, hopefully circle fat. And then there's not really much more we can do here with that. But I just kind of use any of these pages to take it one step further. Like why did we do this? Don't just do the copywork and move on. Like, why did we do this? Make it a thing. Also, by the way, this whole pen correcting thing, I got this idea from Land of Kakiak. Laurel, thank you. This was such a good idea. As soon as we added in the colors and then I let the girls pick their colors, I think it's so fun. And then once we're done with this, then I will say, do you want to draw a picture for your copywork? And 9 out of 10 times she says yes. And then she draws a picture. Now, this sentence is pretty simplistic for my daughter, and I know at her level she could do dictation with this. So I will take this opportunity to say, okay, can you study the sentence really, really good real quick? And then when you're ready, let's flip the page over and I'm going to read it to you without you looking at it, and I want you to write it down. And so then I would say, okay, I'm going to read this to you. I would say, this is a fat hen, and then I would have her write it out. Kind of do the same thing with the pens, you know, double check. When I'm doing dictation, I'm not as critical on her handwriting because she's using other muscles in her brain and such that I want her to focus more on getting it, you know, writing it out correctly, not so much is it pretty, if that makes sense. But I am looking for, did she capitalize the sentence? Did she put a period? And did she capitalize any proper nouns? I will make sure on that. Those things I do focus on, but otherwise I don't get, if she floats a word, I'm not too worried about it here. Now, I will use this opportunity also. If she got something wrong here on this test, on the spelling test, I will then use these additional lines here to do some additional check-in with those words. Let's say she got eggs wrong. Let's say she just spelled it. Let's say she spelled it E-G-S, right? She forgot the double G. I won't ask her, I won't show her the list again. I will go cold turkey into this. I'll say, okay, these are the words you misspelled yesterday. I'm going to tell you them again, and I want to see if you can do it right off the bat correctly. And if she gets them right, great, we'll move on. If she doesn't, if she misspells it again with a G, I'll show her how the proper spelling is. I'll have her then tell me, you know, a funny sentence. I'll say, can you tell me a short but funny sentence with eggs in it? Or I might do, there's some other good ideas in here. I might say, can you think of a word that maybe rhymes with eggs? And we'll create a sentence with that, right? And then whatever sentence that is, I'll write it down for her. I'll have her copy work it under, because then she's practicing how to spell eggs the right way, and things like that. That's why I think it's fun to do, like, use these, because these give me, like, spark new ideas, and I can kind of shake it up for her and be fun. But that's just a really gentle way of reinforcing spelling, things like that. And if she, you know, still had trouble with that, the great thing in the primer and in the first reader, they have actually lessons, which is great. On the other side, lesson 10 was a review lesson. It doesn't give you spelling words. So what I do in those moments is I then go back through the first 10 lessons and I say, what words did you spell incorrectly? And then I'll retest her again at that time, at that future review lesson. And then we just are, you know, gently reinforcing proper spelling. But this is a very gentle, natural learning approach, very Charlotte Mason, and it has worked wonderfully for my daughters. We literally wouldn't have it any other way. And I'm so grateful that the McGuffey readers exist. So if you have any questions about anything I talked about, leave that down in the comments, but this has been just a really great way for us to do our language arts and keep it simple as well. All right, y'all, I hope that was super helpful. If you are interested in trying out the McGuffey readers, I hope that gave you some insight into how to use them, and so you're not just starting from scratch. If you are somebody that does use a McGuffey reader and you've got some good ideas of other things that you can do with them, I'd love to hear those. Leave those down in the comments. I'm always looking for new ideas and new things to implement to make our homeschool better. And if you are new to my channel, hit that subscribe button if you enjoy all things homeschool, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, y'all.